Okay, class, this is just an example of how we are trying to write conclusions. So we're writing conclusions for all of our experiments in science. And so this is the way we do that at Elmwood and how we'd like you to write conclusions. We've gone over this, but I wanted to provide this as an example for you. So we write 4-part conclusions in our science classes at Elmwood. And so those parts of a conclusion need to be a purpose or question, the claim, which you're going to make using your hypothesis, evidence from your experiment that you're going to turn from number form or bin form into sentences, and then finally your reasoning, which explains why what you said is correct. First thing you're going to do in your conclusion is you're going to write the driving question or make a purpose statement about your experiment. So an example would be the purpose of this experiment was to, and then you could put that question in that sentence as a purpose statement. Or you could simply start with the question from the lab that we were given. So I might say the purpose of this experiment was to find out how the mass changes the flight of a paper helicopter, for example, for our first experiment of the year. Second part of a conclusion is where you write your claim. And a claim is where you tell me or anyone else reading what you found out, what happened. So you're going to state your claim, and it's a statement, not a question. So you don't just write your hypothesis again. You're going to turn that hypothesis into a statement if you'd like to. And so the one way you can do that is use the if-then statement, but change the if part to when. So we could say an example would be when, and then you would state your independent variable, then your dependent variable. So an example here, without necessarily using that form, would also be just to make a statement of what we found out. So adding weight to a paper helicopter makes it spin faster as it falls. That's something we were trying to find out. If you use the when-then experiment, you could say when weight is added to a paper helicopter, then it spins faster as it falls. So that would be the part where you put a claim. And it's one of the first things you want to do in a conclusion is really tell us what happened. Second, in every conclusion, you want to have evidence for what you came up with. So it's really easy because you just are putting sentences to the evidence you found in your experiment. So you really just take your numbers or you take what you found out and you just make simple sentences. For example, the helicopter with no paper clips fell in 1.43 seconds. The helicopter with one paper clip fell in 1.01 seconds. The helicopter with 2 paper clips fell in 0.87 seconds. Notice I did not use the word because. I didn't try to say why that happened. I simply just said, here's what happened in the experiment. In every conclusion, that's part of what you write. It's just simply what happened in the experiment so that you can connect that evidence to that statement you just made in your claim in the reasoning portion of your conclusion. The last thing you do to write a great conclusion is you state your reasoning. And this is where you explain, you tell me or anyone else who's reading your conclusion why that's true. Why were you correct? Or why did you find out what you found out about your experiment? An example from the helicopter lab would be the helicopter spun and fell faster with more mass because it took less time to hit the ground. Gravity is most likely the cause. So in your reasoning, you're really connecting your evidence, right, the time it took to hit the ground, to explaining why what you found to be true happened, right? And then you could bring in other explanations that you might know about science or things that we learned. For example, gravity. I know gravity's pulling that more because there's more mass. And so I'm going to assume that it's going to fall faster or spin because there's more force, right? So that's how you write a conclusion, and that's how you write one for every lab that we do. And these are examples from the helicopter lab, but for all of our labs where there's a conclusion, you follow this format. And that's what you're being graded on. I'm looking for a purpose statement, a claim, your evidence, and reasoning that explains why what you found in the experiment is correct. Thanks for watching, guys, and make sure you use this every time you write a conclusion in our class.